You can spend 3 hours planning your future and still not send one email today. You can watch 50 videos on how to build a business and never open a blank document to actually start yours. You can want something so badly it keeps you up at night and still not make yourself do the 10-minute task that would move it forward. And if you've ever called yourself lazy right after finishing an hour of productive research into the exact goal you're avoiding, this isn't a discipline problem. It's not even close. So what is actually stopping the most ambitious person you know, you, from doing the one small thing that would count?
Here's the part nobody tells you. Ambition and action live in two different rooms in your brain, and most of the time, those rooms don't talk to each other. One room is obsessed with the future. It builds the vision, imagines the outcome, plans every step in vivid, satisfying detail. The other room only cares about right now. It decides in this exact second whether a single action is worth doing. You can be a genius in the first room and a total stranger in the second. That's not a character flaw. That's an architecture problem. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every stalled goal you've ever had starts looking less like a failure of willpower and more like two departments that were never introduced.
The future room runs on something researchers call prospection, your brain's ability to simulate outcomes that don't exist yet. It's abstract, it's rewarding, and it's basically free. Imagining your future self successful releases a small hit of dopamine all on its own, no actual work required. That's why planning feels productive even when nothing has changed. Your brain is already getting paid for it in advance before you've lifted a finger.
The now room works completely differently. It's tied to immediate action, and it doesn't respond to meaning or importance or how badly you want something long term. It responds to one question only. Does this feel doable and rewarding right now? A blank document doesn't answer yes. A cold email doesn't answer yes. A 10-minute workout with zero visible payoff doesn't answer yes. So the now room stays quiet. Nothing launches, and the ambition next door just keeps talking to an empty hallway.
This is the actual gap. Not motivation, not laziness. A dopamine mismatch between the system that dreams and the system that has to say go. And until those two systems are introduced, your goals will keep getting planned to death and never born.
And here's the twist that makes this specifically an ambitious person problem. The more vividly you can imagine success, the more dopamine the future room hands out for free, which means highly ambitious people get an even bigger reward for staying in the planning room than less ambitious people do. You're not failing to launch despite your ambition. In a strange way, you're failing to launch partly because of it. The dreaming feels too good to leave. Why walk into the uncertain, unrewarding now room when the future room is handing out dopamine like it's already yours? This is why just want it more has never once worked as advice. Wanting it more just means more time spent getting paid by the room that can't actually deliver it. You know this gap personally, even if you never had a name for it. The business plan with a full financial model, a logo, a 5-year projection, and zero actual clients. Because that next step requires one uncomfortable message to one real stranger. The workout plan with a perfect calendar, the right app, the right playlist, and zero first reps. Because starting cold, out of shape, in front of no one still watching doesn't give the now room anything to say yes to. The novel with 40 pages of notes on characters who don't exist yet in a single written sentence because outlining feels like progress and actually writing feels like exposure. The side hustle idea you've refined in your head for a year, priced out, named, half designed, and never listed. Because listing it is the first moment it can be judged, and the now room reads judgment as a threat, not a task. The job you actually want, fully mapped out. The title, the salary range, the companies, the timeline, and zero applications sent. Because filling out one form feels smaller on paper than it does the moment your cursor is actually sitting in the box. None of these are laziness. Every single one of them is the future room doing its job perfectly, while the now room sits there, unconvinced, waiting for a reason that never shows up on its own.
Okay, deep breath. Here's the good news. You don't need more ambition.
You clearly have plenty, arguably too much for one now room to keep up with. What you actually need is a way to get that now room to say yes on command without waiting to feel ready, because feeling ready was never going to show up on its own. That's the real skill nobody names, and it comes down to 3 moves. Call it the bridge protocol because that's literally what it does. It bridges the 2 rooms that have been ignoring each other this whole time. Move 1. Shrink the action until it's almost insultingly small. The now room doesn't reject big goals, it rejects big first moves. Write the business plan gets a no. Open a blank document and write 1 sentence gets a yes, because it's small enough to feel free of risk. If your brain is still arguing with the task, it's not too lazy to do it, it's still too big. Shrink it again. Launch the business becomes write 1 sentence. Get in shape becomes put your shoes on. Not because the small version matters on its own, but because it's the only version the now room will actually agree to start. Move 2. Attach a reward that fires immediately, not eventually. The future room already has its reward. The vision itself is intoxicating. The now room needs its own reward, and it has to land within seconds of finishing the tiny action, not later once this pays off. That reward can be as small as physically checking it off, 20 seconds of a song you love, or literally saying out loud, "That counted." The timing matters more than the size. Immediate and small beats huge and delayed every time, because that's the currency the now room actually accepts. It doesn't care that a bigger reward is coming in 6 months. 6 months might as well be never. Move 3. Let the first action become the automatic trigger for the next one, instead of a separate decision you have to make each time. 1 sent email becomes the cue that opens the next tab. 1 finished rep becomes the cue for the second. You're not relying on fresh motivation to restart the whole process every single time. You're building a chain where finishing 1 link automatically pulls the next one taut. The first 10 minutes stop being a decision you have to talk yourself into daily and start being closer to a reflex. Do this enough times on purpose, and something quietly shifts. The now room starts trusting the future room. It's learned from small repeated evidence that saying yes doesn't lead to overwhelm. It leads to a payoff it can actually feel right away, every time. That trust is the bridge. Once it's built, it doesn't need to be rebuilt from scratch for every new goal. It just needs to be used. You were never lazy. You were running a brain with a brilliant dreamer in one room and an untrained starter in the other, and nobody ever taught them to work together. Every ambitious person who finally starts producing didn't get a personality transplant, and they didn't suddenly want it more than you do. They just built the bridge between wanting something and doing the first small, unglamorous version of it. That bridge isn't a personality trait, it's a skill, which means it's buildable on purpose, starting with whatever small thing you've been avoiding since before this video even started. Not the whole plan, not the perfect version, just the first insultingly small piece of it, done in the next 10 minutes while the now room still remembers you asked it something. Your brain isn't broken, it's just wired wrong, and now you know exactly which wire needs fixing. If this made sense of something you've been quietly beating yourself up over, subscribe. There's a lot more wiring left to go through.